opening an art gallery. So I really want to say Belfast has changed. We're not about Burnham bins. We're progressive.
Nobody, not the British Prime Minister or anybody else, has the authority to high-handedly remove any provision of the Good Friday Agreement, including and especially the provision for a referendum. We have put that case strongly, forcefully to the Prime Minister, and he has acknowledged that that is in fact the case.
Welcome the Prime Minister to Northern Ireland, and it's good to have the opportunity to engage with him. It's particularly encouraging to hear his comments today, putting to bed the nonsense that has been mentioned over many months now around a border poll.
I draw the comparison with Premier League football, because for all the I make lots of criticisms of them. 25 years ago we asked them to reinvest in the grassroots, and they're still doing it. So
At the centre through, I was like your age, and I just remember feeling it. It's just
but it is, you know, his latest flame by Elvis, that's it's basically the same structure as that. I think
Hey, how are you? Evening all. How are you? So we have come from a very frank and a very forthright meeting with the new British Prime Minister Andy Burnham on this, his first visit to Ireland. Obviously, matters of concern around budget, the proper resourcing of services and infrastructure, matters relating to legacy, to necessary reforms to the Assembly and the Executive. These are matters that have been raised with the Prime Minister. But at the core of our discussion with them has been the Good Friday Agreement and the provision for a referendum on Irish unity. We have made it very clear to the British Prime Minister that the right to referendum, the right for Irish people to decide our future, is one that is contained within the Good Friday Agreement and is a commitment entered into and a matter of international law. And he simply does not have the right to dismiss or disregard that commitment. He accepts that as a matter of fact. We have made very clear that the process of political change is underway in Ireland now, that the direction of travel is unmissable, and that there is absolutely a need for responsible, managed preparation for these referendums so that we ensure that we do not have a repeat of the chaos that we saw in the course of the Brexit process. We have had a very direct exchange with him on these matters. He reiterated for us his full commitment to the Good Friday Agreement. We have made very, very clear to him that we work and we uphold the agreement in all of its parts. And that means, yes, absolutely working the institutions, the Assembly, the Executive led by Michelle O'Neill to their fullest extent. And it also means recognising and preparing for referendums as and when they happen. We've put it to him very, very strongly that burying his head in the sand is not a plan, is not a strategy, is not wise and is not acceptable to us. We are all duty bound to protect the progress that we have made. And that means that we need to be collectively sure-footed. We also need to be honest and very, very clear with people that the Good Friday Agreement and all of its provisions will be honoured. And the referendum for reunification is the heartbeat of the agreement.
I can say we're delighted to welcome the Prime Minister to Northern Ireland, and it's good to have the opportunity to engage with him. It's particularly encouraging to hear his comments today, putting to bed the nonsense that has been mentioned over many months now around a border poll. I shared with you my view of the Secretary of State's position back in July in Hillsborough Castle, and it's good to hear the Prime Minister put that issue beyond doubt. He will hear from us about our desire to see Northern Ireland play its full and integral part within United Kingdom national politics, constitutionally and economically. Clearly there are issues around budgetary settlement in Northern Ireland. People at home are familiar with those and the challenges that creates in public service, so that will form a key part not only of our discussion about what we can do collectively and politically in Northern Ireland to reach agreement around a budget, but what assistance is required from our UK National Parliament and from this Prime Minister to support us in that endeavour. There is a need for politicians in Northern Ireland to get real with some of the issues that face our people, our public services and those on the front lines. And confidence is key in devolution and in politics in Northern Ireland. What was seen over the last week with the court's determination on the Parades Commission is but one example of how quickly things can unravel when people fail to respect the various approaches in Northern Ireland, the various perspectives that people come from, or the need for us to work together. So I imagine that will be mentioned, not only that, but also legacy and the government's plans to bring forward their legislation in the coming weeks.
It was great to meet with the Prime Minister and to see him again after he spoke at our conference earlier this year. Obviously he was there in his capacity as Mayor of Greater Manchester back in March, and the Alliance Party conference seemed to be some sort of a launch pad into the Prime Minister's office, so we're always happy to do our bit to support talent development across different parties. But we had a really constructive meeting with the Prime Minister. He is somebody who has talked about growth in every postcode. He's someone who's talked about putting power back into the hands of communities and levelling up northern towns, and that must include Northern Ireland. So the starting point for that has to be urgent progress on a budget, so that some of the action on the cost of living and on public services that's been delivered in England can be delivered for our constituents here. But also, importantly, progress on reform of the Stormont institutions, to move away from the cycle of crisis and collapse and instability and towards a new politics that's actually capable of delivering for people. And we were really heartened by the positive and constructive tone that we had in that conversation.
Very good engagement with the Prime Minister, and we shared our ambition to make Northern Ireland the most successful place it can be. We had three key messages. The first is that we need support getting a multi-year budget so we can have sustainable public services, but we acknowledge that spending and government in Northern Ireland has to be more responsible. Second of all, we made the case for more strategic investment in Northern Ireland so we can really grow our economy and make this the most prosperous place for everyone, particularly our young people. And finally, we went into considerable detail about the challenges facing health and what we want to deliver, which is a transformed health service with far faster access to NHS services. It was a very constructive engagement with the Prime Minister, and we left with a very clear impression that we wanted to do business together to make this place better for everyone.
Prime Minister about a number of issues, including urgently the need for democratic renewal of the institutions at Stormont. He has proven that he is somebody who can take on reform, and we made very clear that that is linked to the budget challenges and I suppose the culture wars and some of the periodic and in fact constant attempts to drag politics away from delivery. And we showed him a pathway to ensuring that Stormont can actually be a place that delivers for the people of this region, and that protecting the Good Friday institutions is part of that. Obviously part of the Good Friday Agreement is the rational mechanism for constitutional change, and we made very clear, and I think the Prime Minister understands that that's for the people of Ireland to decide, and that the SDLP is actively building towards that. He rightly said that he is anxious about it because Brexit was divisive. It was divisive because it was built on exclusion and because it wasn't planned for. And as I say, the SDLP is leading a reframing of the debate on constitutional change to ensure that those things apply.